when we saw like we were taking some shape, we took some office space and hired a few more people.
Hmm. I'm seeing our time is moving pretty fast. uh, Talk to me about the struggle in the business in terms of building.
Mm. I think the biggest struggle is people. It's always hard to really get dependable and good people. I think that's the biggest challenge in this market, a very big challenge, especially when you're a startup that is bootstrapping, because then it means also how much are you going to pay the people? How much can you afford to pay? And therefore, what quality of people do you get? And then the question then moves on to those people, how loyal will they be? And will they stick? What will you do to get them stay? So it's very difficult to get reliable staff in this market. People, for some reason, still for there are very many good people. There are very many reliable people. We've had good luck, I would say, but we've also had bad luck with people. So we've had people with a lot of fraud, colluding with suppliers, um, to increase costs. So cost of doing business in this part of market is higher because people want to collude. So the supplier sells to the company for more money, and then they go share, and all those kind of things. So it's a bit of a difficult situation with people. So I think management, like I said before, I'm a dreamer, not a manager. So, and when you're bootstrapping, you might not have enough money to hire the manager then, because you also need to have a manager. We are lucky right now. We are at that stage when we've been able to hire a few, and so they are able to I'm able to focus a lot on the dream and the business development. But it has not always been like that, and the hardest part has always been people. Of course, money and taxes. You know, KRA is hell bent on harassing all of us, and sometimes you even just feel like they just want to close you. So it's making sure that you stay compliant, making sure that you keep the relationship up, making sure that with people like KRA, when they audit you, you understand what they expect, so that every next time you don't do the same thing. But there are definitely a lot of challenges in doing business in this side of market that are concerned to things like tax, because it is not clear. You know, you every time when you think you've done it all, a KRA person will come and audit your books, and they will still find something else. So it's a continuous learning process, and regardless of how many consultants you have, there will always still be something. So managing people, managing managing KRA, taxes, and other compliances, and just keeping the office running continuously without stop. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge. Please give your respect to all entrepreneurs you see. I mean, I was recently telling one of my customers, it took me 8 years, almost 8 years, maybe about 7 or so, to get back to the last salary I earned as an entrepreneur. Have always earned less salary than my last job, up to about 7 years of doing this. So it's tougher than anybody would imagine, but the rewards are different. Yeah. So maybe my peers went on and got jobs that pay more, but for us, you know, one day you could wake up and sell the company and the reward will be a bit higher. So there are different kinds of paths, and the entrepreneurship path is one of the toughest, very tough. And every day is different. You don't know what today it's about 8, it's almost, oh, it's 9. And the challenges of today will be different from the challenges of tomorrow. But most of the time, they'll revolve around money, people, and processes.
Processes. What about processes?
Aha. So when you start, you don't know what you're doing. over time, when you learn that people and money are a process issue, you know, your cash flow is dependent on more of your processes than it is dependent on anything else. So business has to get to a point where it really builds a system that is impenetrable, so that it controls fraud, it controls what people do on a daily basis, it controls everything. And the systems are what works for the business, rather than the business works on the system. It's really the system that is working. So until that system is set up, which is made up mostly of processes and procedures, then you have not got a business yet.
There is that element to do with the cash flow in business, whereby you are able to sell to clients and they take time to be able to pay. And at some point, some businesses do close out as a result of that, whereby they have money, but it is on the invoices that they have given and no liquid cash. How has that affected your business, and how have you been able to maneuver around it?
Flow is a very difficult subject, especially for contractors. Anybody who is in the building industry will tell you that a lot of contractors will go bankrupt, not because they have no work, but because they have no cash flow. And being that our main business over time has been in the construction industry, building taking turnkey projects, hotel turnkey projects from scratch, and building them up, taking up the whole thing from the network, cabling, Wi-Fi, telephony, the TV systems, opening. Now we are even open the locks, the door locks, the hotel locks, and opening the locks with the mobile phone and all that, just building up the entire hotel from scratch, or even a commercial building, automating to make sure that the blinds can open without, it's a turnkey project. So what happens for contractors is that most of the time we are not paid any money at the beginning, and money is paid on what they call certificates. Certificates is like what you have done by now. So you go, you buy items, you take them to site, you buy labor, you take it to site, the labor does work. Then after you have done that, you apply for something called a certificate. Then for ICT subcontractors, we work under mechanical and electrical engineers as our consultants. So the mechanical engineer evaluates your work, then sends the evaluation to a QS. The QS sends you a certificate. The customer is now supposed to pay against that certificate. Some customers will pay immediately the certificate comes out, and we thank those customers a lot, and we are quite lucky to have a few of those. So others will take even years before they pay. We are in projects, some projects that have taken 5 years in between. You are being paid as you go, but the project is taking very long. So cash flow can be a really difficult subject, especially with the construction projects in mind. However, as entrepreneurs, you get ways to deal with it. Like for instance, for us, it's the shop. So with the shop, we have a cash flow business on the side. So when you start a business, try to consider doing more of a cash flow business, a business where people can come and buy cash and go. My next business will definitely be a subscription business where people subscribe and every month they pay regardless, like Netflix. Yeah, you're paying every month regardless. You just sit at home and that guy is making money because they're already a subscriber. You're going nowhere. So I would encourage entrepreneurs to think a lot about the design of their businesses, because it is in the design that the cash is designed. So we reckon that our construction business is really good. When we do the turnkey projects, they are very good projects. From a profit perspective, but they are very poor at cash. So you have to substitute. So our substitute on our side is a shop. But before we got there, we had really suffered.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do the banks help in that, or?
It's like again, it's the egg chicken. If you take credit, we'll take credit from the bank for a project we are sure of. You know, a customer we have worked with, like there are customers we have worked with since 2012 to date. We are sure they will pay regardless. So a customer like that, you can go to the bank with. But you don't want to go to the bank with a customer who is paying you by certificates and you don't know how it's going to go. There are interesting offers. SBM or former Chase Bank, when they were Chase Bank, they were really good at credit. And we got a lot of credit that had no collateral. At some point, when the regulator regulated the interest rates to 13%, that disappeared. There was no more credit without collateral, and it really affected business. But today there are offers. I think SBM has an offer for 5 million with you can get up to 5 million shillings without what do you call it? Without collateral. The only collateral you probably need to give them is contracts. Like for us, we are in construction projects contracts, and they're good to go. We also try a lot to work with customers to give us LCs, because the letter of credit sometimes is also accepted as a collateral in the bank, and they'll give you back-to-back LCs or a letter of our bank guarantee. So there are also many other ways of dealing with it. We have found that if we invoice regularly, even if you have done very little work this month, just make sure you invoice it. Don't wait to lump up. So again, working with customers, some customers we've worked on weekly payments. Instead of them paying the contract once, because the contract is going to go for a long period, like you're building an apartment, the apartment block might take a year to complete. Our work is usually done mostly towards the end. About 20% of our work will be done during construction, but most of our work will be done so much towards the end. So so we have agreements with customers. So instead of them paying one big lump sum, they can pay weekly payments or monthly payments, and that has also eased up the cash flow. So just looking into your processes and seeing how can I release value from them. So and this was something we learned in the Stanford Seed program, that you just keep looking into the value chain and see how you can release money, because a lot of times businesses have a lot of money in paperwork but no money in the bank. So releasing this money from the papers is trying to come up with all sorts of negotiation methods, negotiate with the banks, negotiate with the suppliers, negotiate with the customers. Instead of them paying you when the work is done and in a lump sum, let them pay you in small installments. And this has really eased up. Or let them give you an LC for the equipment that you're going to ship. Like we ship a lot of TVs for hotels. So it is easier if it was paid in LC, because then it is easier backwards. So negotiate with everybody in the chain, from the customer to the end user, and then at the same time try to find as many jobs that you can do that are cash based. Because also in this economy, we know that a lot of people don't want to pay. They tell you 30 days and they pay you in 90 days. And when you're trying to push them to pay you, their 30 days are over that they told you, and now you're on the 38th day and you're financed by your collection person has called them 3 times. They call you to complain that you're calling them too much. And yet, they haven't met their part of the bargain. And your suppliers, on the other hand, really want you to pay up. If you don't pay up your supplier, you don't get the credit. So it's a very tough place to work on, and it's a balance that you have to keep looking at. And again, it is in the processes, making sure that statements are sent in time. Customers are reminded quite often on how much they owe you. It is all in the system, in the process, and it's all in negotiation. Yeah, but cash flow is a tough nut.